Listen, I don't care if this hurts your feelings. I don't care if you think you already know how to handle money. The fact is, if you're not wealthy right now, you're doing something wrong. And I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. You're losing money every single day, and you don't even know it. Not because the economy is rigged, not because you don't make enough. You're losing money because you're following broke people's advice, making broke people's decisions, and wondering why you stay broke. I've spent 40 years building wealth, losing fortunes, making them back, and figuring out what actually works. I've invested in over 1,500 companies. I've made hundreds of millions of dollars. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that wealth comes down to 6 non-negotiable rules. Rich people follow these rules religiously. Poor people ignore them and complain about being poor. The difference between retiring with $3 million and struggling on $200,000 comes down to whether you follow these 6 rules starting today. Here's the brutal truth. These rules aren't complicated. A 10-year-old could understand them, but most adults won't follow them because they require discipline. And discipline is what separates winners from losers in every area of life. In the next 25 minutes, I'm breaking down the 6 rules that changed everything for me. I'm showing you exactly how to implement each one. I'm giving you the math that proves why they work, and I'm telling you what happens when you ignore them. But first, if you're serious about stopping the financial bleeding, if you're tired of working hard and staying broke, if you want to actually build wealth instead of just dreaming about it, hit that subscribe button right now. Join this community. We don't sugarcoat, we don't make excuses. We build real wealth with proven strategies. Rule number 1, and this is the foundation of everything. Pay yourself first, automatically, before you see the money. This is non-negotiable. If you don't master this, nothing else matters. Here's what this means. The moment your paycheck hits your account, 20% disappears into investments before you can spend it. Not after bills, not after expenses, not after fun. First, before anything else. You pay yourself before you pay anyone else. Let me show you the math that'll change your life. You make $75,000 per year. That's $6,250 per month. 20% is $1,250 per month. If you invest $1,250 monthly at 10% annual returns for 30 years, you'll have $2.4 million, not $400,000, not $800,000. $2.4 million. But here's what most people do. They pay their bills first. They spend on groceries, rent, car payments, entertainment, subscriptions. Then at the end of the month, they look at what's left and invest that. You know what's left? Nothing. There's never anything left. Poor people have a spending problem disguised as an income problem. They think they don't make enough to save. That's garbage. I've met people making $40,000 who save 25% and people making $300,000 who save nothing. Income isn't the issue. Discipline is the issue. Here's what rich people understand. You adjust your lifestyle to the 80%, not the 100%. If you never see that 20%, you don't miss it. Your brain adapts. You live on $5,000 instead of $6,250. You make it work. And while you're making it work, you're building a $2.4 million fortune in the background. The antagonist here is your own lack of self-control and consumer culture that tells you to spend everything you make. Credit card companies, retailers, social media, everyone wants you broke in spending. They profit when you're in debt. They lose when you're disciplined. Here's how you implement this tomorrow. Set up automatic transfers the day after your paycheck deposits. 20% goes straight from checking to your investment account. You never touch it. You never see it. It's gone before you can make a stupid decision. I've been paying myself first since my 20s. It's the single most important financial decision I ever made. When I was making $50,000, I paid myself $10,000. When I made $200,000, I paid myself $40,000. When I made millions, I paid myself first. That discipline built the foundation of my wealth. This is what separates people who retire wealthy from people who work until they die. Wealthy people prioritize future wealth over current consumption. Broke people prioritize looking rich today over being rich tomorrow. You want to stop losing money? Stop spending money you should be investing. Pay yourself first. Make it automatic. Make it non-negotiable. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, never carry consumer debt, ever. If you have credit card debt right now, you're hemorrhaging wealth at a catastrophic rate. Let me show you how bad this is. The average credit card interest rate in 2026 is 24%. Think about that. You're paying 24% interest on money you borrowed to buy things that are now worthless or consumed. That's not a loan. That's financial suicide. Here's the math that should terrify you. You have $15,000 in credit card debt at 24% interest. If you only make minimum payments of $450 per month, it'll take you 54 months to pay it off. You'll pay $24,300 total. That's $9,300 in interest alone. You paid 62% more than the original amount for stuff you can't even remember buying. But it gets worse. If you had invested that $450 per month for 54 months at 10% returns instead of paying credit card interest, you'd have $28,200. The difference between paying off debt and investing that money is $52,500 in wealth. One decision. $52,500 difference. Credit card debt is the single biggest wealth destroyer in America. It's worse than buying expensive cars. It's worse than overpaying for houses. It's a death spiral that keeps people broke for their entire lives. Rich people use credit cards for convenience and rewards. They pay the full balance every single month. They never pay a cent in interest. Poor people use credit cards as loans. They carry balances. They pay minimum payments. They get destroyed by compound interest working against them instead of for them. Here's what you do if you have credit card debt right now. Stop everything. No restaurants, no vacations, no new clothes, no luxuries. Attack that debt with everything you have. Pay triple the minimum payment. Pay it off in 12 months instead of 54 months. Cut your interest payments by 70%. I've never carried credit card debt in my life. Not once. Even when I was broke in my 20s, I paid my balance in full every month. If I couldn't afford to pay it off, I didn't buy it. That discipline saved me hundreds of thousands in interest payments over 40 years. The financial industry loves credit card debt. They make $120 billion per year on interest and fees from people who can't control their spending. They want you in debt. They market to you constantly. They raise your limits. They make it easy to destroy yourself financially. This is brutal truth time. If you're carrying consumer debt, you're not building wealth. You can't. It's mathematically impossible. You're paying 24% interest while trying to earn 10% returns. You're losing 14% annually before you even start. You're going backwards. Wealthy people understand that debt is a tool for assets, not consumption. They borrow at 3% to buy real estate that appreciates at 6%. They borrow at 5% to invest in businesses that return 20%. They never borrow at 24% to buy clothes and vacations. You want to stop losing money? Eliminate consumer debt completely. Pay it off aggressively. Cut up your cards if you can't control yourself. Never carry a balance again. That's rule number 2. Rule number 3, and this is where people get angry. Live on 60% of your income maximum. 20% gets invested automatically like we discussed. 10% is your emergency fund until you have 6 months of expenses. 10% is for wealth acceleration, extra debt payments, or additional investments. Most people spend 100% to 110% of what they make. They're living paycheck to paycheck on a $150,000 annual income because they upgraded their lifestyle every time they got a raise. That's financial insanity. Here's what happens when you follow the 60% rule. You make $100,000 per year. You live on $60,000. You invest $20,000 automatically. You save $10,000 for emergencies. You use $10,000 to accelerate wealth building. After 20 years of this discipline, you've invested $400,000, which has grown to $1.3 million at 10% returns. You have a $60,000 emergency fund that's fully funded. You've used the extra $200,000 over 20 years to pay off your house early, invest in a business, or accelerate your retirement accounts. Compare that to someone making the same $100,000 but living on $95,000 and saving $5,000 per year. After 20 years, they've invested $100,000, which grew to $320,000. They have no emergency fund. They're still paying a mortgage. They're 20 years closer to retirement with 1/4 of the wealth. The difference? Discipline. Living below your means, refusing to inflate your lifestyle every time you get a raise. I live on approximately 40% of my income. I've been a millionaire for 30 years, and I still don't buy stupid expensive things I don't need. I drive reasonable cars. I don't wear $5,000 watches. I don't need a $10 million house. I keep my lifestyle costs low, so my wealth compounds aggressively. Poor people do the opposite. They get a $20,000 raise and immediately increase their spending by $25,000. New car payment, bigger apartment, more expensive restaurants, more subscriptions. They're making more money and somehow saving less. The antagonist here is lifestyle inflation and social comparison. Everyone around you is spending money. They don't have to impress people they don't like. you're tempted to do the same. Resist that temptation or stay broke forever. Here's what you do. Calculate 60% of your after-tax income. That's your lifestyle budget. Everything, rent, food, transportation, entertainment, all of it fits in that 60%. If it doesn't fit, you cut expenses or increase income. No excuses. This is what separates wealthy people from people drowning in golden handcuffs. Wealthy people keep lifestyle costs low regardless of income. Broke people spend everything they make regardless of income. You can't out-earn bad spending habits. If this is making sense, if you're seeing the patterns that keep people broke, hit that like button right now. It helps this message reach more people who need to hear that wealth isn't about how much you make. It's about how much you keep. Rule number 4. Invest only in assets that produce cash flow or appreciate consistently. Stop gambling on speculative garbage that produces nothing. Here's what this means. Stocks that pay dividends and appreciate over time? Asset. Real estate that generates rental income? Asset. Index funds that track the market? Asset. Bitcoin, not an asset. It's speculation. NFTs, speculation. Meme stocks, gambling, luxury cars, liability, expensive watches, liability. Let me give you the math. You invest $50,000 in dividend-paying stocks yielding 4% annually and appreciating at 7% annually. After 20 years, you've collected $60,000 in dividends, and your investment is worth $193,000. Total wealth created, $203,000. Compare that to someone who buys a $50,000 luxury car. After 20 years, that car's worth $8,000 if they're lucky. They spent $15,000 on maintenance and insurance. They lost $57,000 in wealth. The difference between the two decisions is $260,000. One decision built $250,000 in wealth. The other destroyed wealth. Same starting amount, completely different outcome. Rich people buy assets that appreciate and generate income. They own stocks, real estate, businesses, intellectual property. Their wealth compounds while they sleep. Poor people buy liabilities that depreciate and cost money to maintain. They own cars, boats, luxury goods, electronics. Their wealth evaporates while they work. I own businesses that generate cash flow. I own dividend stocks that pay me quarterly. I own real estate that produces rental income. My assets work for me 24/7. I haven't had a job in 30 years because my assets generate more income than I can spend. The antagonist here is consumer culture and the Instagram lifestyle. Everyone's showing off cars, watches, clothes, vacations. Nobody's showing you their investment portfolios. You're comparing yourself to people who are broke pretending to be rich. Here's the filter you use for every purchase over $1,000. Does this produce cash flow? Does this appreciate? If the answer to both is no, you don't buy it. You invest that money in something that says yes to both questions. I was offered a $300,000 sports car last year. I could easily afford it. I didn't buy it. You know what I did with that $300,000? I invested it in dividend stocks yielding 5%. That's $15,000 per year in passive income forever. The car would cost me money every year in insurance, maintenance, and depreciation. This is what separates wealthy people from people who look wealthy. Wealthy people own income-producing assets. People who look wealthy own depreciating liabilities and debt. You want to stop losing money? Stop buying things that lose value and cost money to maintain. Start buying things that gain value and pay you to own them. That's rule number 4. Rule number 5, diversify across asset classes, not just within stocks. This is risk management that prevents you from getting destroyed when one market crashes. Most people think diversification means owning 20 different stocks. That's not diversification. That's owning 20 things that all crash together when the stock market drops 40%. Real diversification means owning stocks, bonds, real estate, maybe some commodities, maybe some international exposure. Different asset classes that don't move together. When stocks crash, bonds often rise. When real estate slows, stocks might surge. You're protected from catastrophic loss in any single market. Here's the math. You have $500,000 invested 100% in stocks. The market crashes 50% like it did in 2008. You now have $250,000. You lost half your wealth. It takes 7 years at 10% annual returns just to get back to $500,000. You wasted 7 years. Compare that to someone with $500,000 allocated 60% stocks, 30% bonds, 10% real estate. The stock portion drops 50% to $150,000. Bonds stay flat at $150,000. Real estate drops 20% to $40,000. Total portfolio value, $340,000. They lost 32% instead of 50%. That's $90,000 less damage, and they recover in 4 years instead of 7. I've been through 5 major market crashes in my career: 1987, 2000, 2008, 2020, and the correction in 2022. Every single time, my diversified portfolio protected me from devastating losses. While people who were 100% stocks lost 40% to 60%, I lost 15% to 25% and recovered quickly. Rich people understand that returns don't matter if you lose everything in a crash. A 30% return doesn't help if you panic sell at the bottom and lock in 50% losses. Diversification keeps you stable enough to avoid panic decisions. Poor people chase maximum returns at all times. They're 100% in whatever asset class performed best last year. All stocks during bull markets, all crypto during bubbles, all real estate during booms. Then that asset class crashes and they're destroyed. The antagonist here is greed and recency bias. After 10 years of stock market gains, people forget that crashes happen. They abandon diversification to chase returns. Then the crash comes and they lose everything. Here's the allocation. If you're under 40, consider 70% stocks, 20% bonds, 10% real estate. If you're 40 to 55, shift to 60% stocks, 30% bonds, 10% real estate. Over 55, move to 50% stocks, 35% bonds, 15% real estate. Adjust based on your risk tolerance, but maintain diversification. I keep approximately 55% in stocks, 30% in bonds, and 15% in real estate across my retirement portfolio. It's boring, it's stable, it compounds consistently. I sleep soundly during market crashes because I'm diversified. This is what separates successful long-term investors from people who get wiped out. Successful investors prioritize risk management over maximum returns. They accept slightly lower returns in exchange for portfolio stability. Broke people gamble everything on one asset class and get destroyed. Rule number 6, the final rule: track every dollar you spend for 90 days minimum. You cannot manage what you don't measure. If you don't know where your money goes, you're losing money constantly. Most people have no idea where their money goes. They make $8,000 per month, and somehow it's all gone by the 28th. They're confused. They think they don't make enough. The problem isn't income. The problem is unconscious spending. Here's what happens when you track spending. You discover you're spending $450 per month on restaurants, $200 on coffee and snacks, $180 on subscriptions you forgot about, $300 on impulse purchases. That's $130 per month in waste. Over a year, that's $13,560 you're hemorrhaging. If you cut that waste in half and invested $6,680 annually for 30 years at 10% returns, that's $1.2 million. You're losing over $1 million in retirement wealth because you don't track your Starbucks habit. I track every dollar I spend. I have for 40 years. I know exactly where my money goes. I review my spending monthly. I identify waste. I eliminate it. This single habit has saved me millions over my lifetime. Rich people are obsessive about tracking money. They know their numbers. They review financial statements. They understand cash flow. Poor people avoid looking at their finances. They're afraid of what they'll find. That fear keeps them broke. The villain here is financial avoidance and shame. People don't want to face the brutal truth that they're wasting thousands monthly on garbage. So they don't track. They don't look. They stay broke and wonder why. Here's what you do. Download a tracking app or use a spreadsheet. Every purchase, write it down. Every coffee, every meal, every subscription, every impulse buy. Do this for 90 days. Then analyze the data. You'll be shocked at where your money goes. After 90 days, you'll see patterns. You'll see waste. You'll see opportunities to save $500, $1,000, maybe $2,000 per month. That money gets redirected to investments. That's how you build wealth. This is brutal truth time. If you're not tracking spending, you're flying blind. You cannot build wealth without understanding cash flow. Wealthy people obsess over their numbers. Broke people avoid their numbers. So here are the 6 rules that changed everything. Pay yourself first automatically, 20% minimum. Never carry consumer debt. ever. Live on 60% of your income maximum. Invest only in cash flowing or appreciating assets. Diversify across asset classes for protection. Track every dollar for 90 days minimum. These rules aren't complicated, they're simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. These rules require discipline most people don't have. They require sacrifice. They require delaying gratification. They require thinking long term when everyone around you is living for today. But if you follow these 6 rules for 20 to 30 years, you will be wealthy. Not might be, will be. The math guarantees it. These rules have created millions of wealthy people. They've created my wealth. They'll create yours if you have the discipline to follow them. Most people won't do this. They'll read these rules, nod their heads, and change nothing. They'll keep spending everything they make. They'll keep carrying debt. They'll keep buying liabilities. And they'll retire broke, wondering what happened. You have a choice. Follow these rules starting tomorrow and build real wealth, or ignore them and stay broke forever. There's no middle ground. Wealth is a choice. Poverty is a choice. You decide today. I've given you the roadmap. I've shown you the math. I've explained the discipline required. Now it's on you. Will you follow these rules or will you make excuses? Winners follow rules. Losers make excuses. Now here's what I need you to do. If these 6 rules opened your eyes to why you're losing money, smash that like button right now. Share this with someone who needs to stop the financial bleeding. Comment below which rule you're implementing first so we can build this together. But don't stop there. Become a member of this channel. When you become a member, you're investing in the financial education that creates real wealth. You're joining a community of disciplined people who understand that wealth comes from following proven rules, not chasing shortcuts. Subscribe, become a member, and let's build generational wealth together. The choice is yours.